Okay, you may start now.
Namaste and very good morning to all of you. Today my topic is theory of knowledge, Rene Descartes. Whenever we are talking about knowledge, knowledge means whatever in our consciousness. But when we take Rene Descartes, he attributed some more clarity to this consciousness. Even in Indian philosophy or in Western philosophy. Both believes in some sources of knowledge. Sources means to say the means through which we attain knowledge. And the means are sense perception, reason, intuition, verbal testimony, these are generally discussed sources of knowledge. If you see the history of Western philosophy, you will observe that since the time of Parmenides till Parmenides, there is no division between sense perception and reason. There is no and reason. No doubt, in each and every process of knowledge, both these, sense perception and reason, are applied. Some philosophers give some more preference to reason, whereas other gives more preference to sense perception. But more or less, both are involved in every act of knowledge. Both these processes are involved in every act of knowledge. But till the time of Parmenides, there is no division between these two as the two different sources of knowledge. Parmenides was the first who made that division, that there is sense, it has some field, and there is the reason, it has some other field. Reason is that means which provides certainty to our knowledge. Whereas the material or the knowledge provided by senses is temporary. It cannot be considered as permanent knowledge. And the permanence and certainty provided by reason in the field of knowledge. This division of sense perception and reason was further developed by the Greek philosopher Plato. Plato even rejects sense experience as a source of knowledge. He made tripartite division of knowledge, and the lower two divisions, that is the knowledge of dreams and illusions and the perceptual knowledge, is not knowledge. The lower two divisions are not knowledge. So what is knowledge? For Plato, knowledge is that which is given by reason. He says that knowledge is the rational apprehension of ideas. What we know Plato clarified two or three things in the knowledge. Here, the development arose that what is the subject of knowledge? Till Plato, this type of distinction has not been made in the history of Western philosophy. Object of knowledge, means of knowledge, and process of knowledge. Means refer to the sources of knowledge. Means, sources of knowledge. Subject, Plato accepts the immortality of the soul, and soul is the subject of knowledge. Object, Plato says ideas. Objects for Plato are ideas. It's important to note that Plato doesn't consider consider the material world as an object of knowledge. Means to say, what we are actually seeing, what we are listening, he says it is not knowledge. The knowledge derived through our senses of vision, through listening, through touch, through taste, is not knowledge. Then what is knowledge? He says, knowledge is just the apprehension of idea. Now the question arises, where are these ideas? Plato says that there is an other world which is called the world of ideas. Here, all ideas reside. And before mentioning Descartes, I have mentioned all these things of Parmenides and Plato because Parmenides was the first person who presented the importance of reason in the field of knowledge. And the whole Western philosophy is believed to be the footnote of Plato, nothing else. And rationalism without Plato is nothing. The roots of rationalism is in Plato. And here, where Plato left, Descartes began. Descartes began. What the major problem before Descartes is that philosophy is uncertain. The theories of philosophy are not constant. One philosopher came, he gave a theory. The next came, he rejects his theory and gives his own theory. He observes the inconsistency in the field of philosophy. And he wants to establish a constant theory, a constant principle which never changes. What you see here, Descartes was basically a mathematician. And being a mathematician, he is saying that this is the theory, a right angle triangle that is perpendicular, base, hypotenuse. And Pythagoras in 5th century BC, given the theory that base square plus perpendicular square is equal to hypotenuse square. It is constant. He says that the axioms and theorems given in mathematics and geometry, they are constant. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Thousand times before our birth, thousands years before our birth, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. And thousands years after our birth, it remains constant. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, or base plus perpendicular is equal to hypotenuse. These mathematical laws remain unchanged and constant. Then why philosophy changing? He is saying that Pythagoras is a mathematician, geometrician, as well as a philosopher. As a mathematician, the laws he had given, they are constant, whereas as a philosopher, the theories he had given, they are changed. Why? He wants some principles or a system which provide consistency in philosophy. And to establish the consistency in philosophy, he tries to penetrate the mathematical principles in the field of philosophy. Then the problem before Descartes, from where he begins. कहाँ से शुरू किया जाए? He needs some platform from where he begins his philosophy. And his search ends when he finds his principle of doubting. Or we can say Cartesian method of doubting. Cartesian method of doubting. In this method, Descartes began his philosophy by doubting each and everything around him. He says that let us doubt all the objects of sense. He believed that sense gives us no constant knowledge. So why we accept sense? He says, let us start doubting all the objects of sense. All sensuous experience he placed under his doubt. Under his doubt. Then, number second, he says, even. We know that the mathematical principles like 3 angles of a triangle is equal to 180 degree are certain. But here he says, let we doubt them. Let we doubt even the principle of mathematics are not so. Or the universality or the universality of these principles cannot be made. Means to say, he rejects the whole field of the empirical world and the whole field of rational world. All knowledge is under doubt. Then what is? He says, even in this process of doubting, we ascertain one thing, and that thing is the doubt. That thing is the doubter. At least there is some entity which is doubting. Now again look at the process of knowledge. There is subject of knowledge. Sources or means. Object. Here what Descartes saying in this process, he is saying that even through vision, when I try to look at a thing, means when I look at the blackboard, this is a blackboard, but I am not sure about my senses. So I am doubting this is blackboard or this is not blackboard. I am actually looking at the blackboard or not. There is no certainty of the object. Even he doesn't establish the certainty of the means of knowledge. Again, he is applying reason. There is sense experience. In which he rejects the existence or certainty of the object. Here he applies reason. He is saying that 3 plus 3 is equal to 6. Even the calculation and methodology, he is saying I am not certain about that thing. Or the sun rises from the east. The sun even these propositions are not ascertained by me, because I am not in a condition to ascertain these facts of reason which are constant, but I am unable to condition them as true or false, as valid or invalid. So this knowledge is also uncertain one. Sources are uncertain, nor objectives. But in this whole process, there is at least one thing is confirmed, that when we are talking about knowledge, it means we are talking about some entity, subject of knowledge. Without subject, knowledge is not possible. Without subject, knowledge is not possible. And when we say that there is knowledge, we say that somebody or thing has knowledge. Knowledge means knowledge of a thing, but who has that knowledge? Means some person or somebody has knowledge. And Descartes says a famous phrase. Descartes derived a famous phrase from this process, from this point, and that phrase is called it means to say, I think, therefore I am. It means to say, this phrase is the crux of Descartes' philosophy. Look at here. It doesn't mean an inference. This phrase does not mean but it is the first self-evident axiom. First self-evident derived by Descartes. Self-evident means it is not inference. I think. Thinking proceeds or establish my existence. I am means my existence. And an act cannot establish my existence. Here Descartes is mentioning what the point Descartes want to say is that it doesn't mean that thinking establishes my existence. It means that my existence, the essence of my existence is thinking. There is a huge difference between the two. The first is an inference. Inference means to say, if I work hard, I pass the examination. Means the exam has a precondition. Pass the examination has a precondition of work hard. It is not inference just like that inference. It is the first certain self-evident axiom which Descartes want to establish, which is like mathematics, which is like the axioms of geometry, which is like the theorems of mathematics and geometry. It is just like that. It is not the causal connection, neither it is an inference. And at that point, when Descartes established that there is some subject of knowledge, there is some subject of knowledge which is certain. The first step of knowledge is that there is a self, and that self is I-ness, and that is mind body. The second thing for Descartes is to know other things. Things are objects of the world. Then he gives a fourfold method. The first step of this fourfold is the first step is not to accept anything as true unless it is verified. Means to say, you have to analyze each and everything. You have to verify each and everything before accepting as true, before establishing its certainty. How? How we check the truthness of that thing? He says, divide each of the problem into as many parts as possible. He's saying that you have to divide each of the object, each of the process of knowledge into as many parts as possible. Then on number 3, start with the easiest one. And move towards more and more complex. सबसे easiest से begin and then you have to move to the more complex things. Finally, assure nothing is omitted. He says that unless you go through these fourfold principles, you cannot verify the certainty of any knowledge. You have to obey these fourfold principles to establish the certainty of your knowledge. Now, what is knowledge? What you have to know now further? He says, ideas. Now, what are these ideas? He says there are 3 types of ideas. Number 1 is fictitious. Number 2 is adventitious. And number 3 is innate. Fictitious are the ideas, just I am saying that flying horse. I am saying that sky flower. These ideas are fictions. They have no reality, no existence. The horse cannot fly and sky has no flowers. So these all concepts like golden mountain, these are fictitious ideas. These all are fictitious ideas. Second, he is saying that the ideas of our actual perceptual world, means to say all the ideas derived through perception. All the perception. And finally, he is saying that there are innate ideas. Innate ideas are the most important one. They constitute the essence of Descartes' theory of knowledge. Just remember or recall Plato's ideas, eternal ideas. Plato considered that all ideas are eternal. But here there is some difference between Descartes and Plato. Descartes believes the ideas to be innate must be distinct and clear. Distinct means separate from all others. Clear means all aspects. Are observed. And the attribute of distinction and clearness he has given to the idea of God. He is saying that God is the idea which is most clear and distinct. Further, he is saying that all the ideas of mathematics, geometry, as well as of metaphysics Number one, the idea of God, which he has also proved with the ontological argument. Descartes' very famous argument is to prove the existence of God is ontological argument. First he says that the highest level of clearness and distinctness we can observe in the idea of God, and it is the first innate idea, highest innate idea. Secondly, he is saying that all the ideas of maths and geometry, they are innate, they are certain, and each idea in math and geometry is clear and distinct. There is no confusion. Thirdly, he is saying all the ideas of metaphysics, means God, world and soul. These metaphysical concepts all are also clear and distinct. So therefore, these ideas are also certain. These ideas are also certain. Further, he is saying that even in our sensuous experience, reason is also implied, and innate ideas are also there. All those ideas which shows the mathematical form, which can be represented by mathematical form, are innate. That aspect is innate in our empirical world. So, in Descartes' philosophy, even an object, we are looking at some qualities, just like extension. Quantity or number. Etc. These qualities, he is saying that they are innate qualities. Descartes makes a distinction between primary and secondary qualities, or these primary qualities which are actually can be represented in the mathematical form, they are also has the innate aspect, the clearness and distinctness aspect in them, so they are also innate. So these all the innate ideas, including the idea of God, mind, body, the world, and all the ideas of mathematics, metaphysics, geometry, and some of our sensuous experience which also have the clearness and distinctness, these all constitute our knowledge. These all constitute our knowledge. One more aspect is important to mention here, that what Descartes borrowed from Plato is the recollection. He is saying that these innate ideas are not mind-based. Mind doesn't create these innate ideas. So these innate ideas are recollected by the mind. These ideas are revealed before the mind. They are not the product of experience. So this is the theory of knowledge of Descartes. Now any question? You can please. क्वेश्चन लाइव नहीं है?